What is up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I have a very exciting video to show you all today. We are going to be taking advantage of rank 1 combat sectors, most specifically Retem Alnothe, to make a lot of money, to farm a lot of seasonal points for the current spring event, and get a ton of those new luminous weapons. So that's right guys, rank 1 combat sectors, level 20 monsters. You might be asking, Thrift, why are we going back to rank 1 combat sectors? Well, there's a few really good reasons why. First and foremost, they are very easy monsters to clear, which in turn is going to result in a lot faster PSE gauge charge. The whole goal behind this type of farm is we are trying to get to those PSE bursts, which is going to give us a ton of monsters in a small area, and we're just going to farm the ever-living crap out of them. Because we're clearing a ton of monsters, we're going to get a lot of raw MESETA from killing them, as well as trash loot that we can convert to cash for even more MESETA. So this is one of the best ways to make money as a free-to-play player, since you do not need the player shop to make consistent money. An example was I did this for 30 minutes earlier today, and I made over 200,000 MESETA in just loot kills, as well as converting to cash. So this is a system that you can easily make up to 500,000, if not more MESETA, in 1 hour of just clearing monsters. Not to mention, since we have the seasonal event, we're clearing a ton of seasonal event monsters. You are going to get a ton of points. I personally got over 150,000 points today. I know some people that were using some of the recipes that give you additional multipliers on your point accumulation, and they got over 400,000 points in a day. They literally cleared out the shop in 1 day of doing this farm. Not to mention, you can still get great loot from the rank 1 combat sector in Retem Alnothe for things that can be sold on the personal shop. Some examples of this is the Ret Yellow, Ret Purple, and the Spring 2022 triggers. All of these sell really well. Some may not be worth as much, but those Ret Purple triggers are worth something, and they're going to be worth a lot more when we come back to Retem. Who knows what's going to be in that new rank 2 Retem Purple trigger. We have motions in our current rank 2 Alio sector. I'd suspect that they would put something in that trigger, and it may make these purple triggers go up in price. Additionally, there are some capsules that are worth money as well. Most specifically, it's the Alt Secreta lineup of Alt Secreta 1, 2, and 3. You can actually drop Alt Secreta 3s here. They don't drop quite that often, but you get a ton of Alt Secreta 2s, which still sell for a decent amount. Not to mention, since it is the seasonal event right now, you can get light exploit 1s from the seasonal rappies that do spawn around the area. And there are some other decent capsules. They may not sell for a lot, but Forms Machini Soul, as well as Forms Sand Soul 1, 2, and 3, those do drop here, so they can help you get into a budget build, or maybe help you work on some other gear so you can play some other classes. And not to mention, there is 5-star rarity gear here. You can get any of the luminous weapons here, as well as some really good 5-star weapons and armors. Let's go ahead and first just cover over some of the basics behind the PSE Burst system. You have a PSE gauge nearby your minimap in the upper left corner of your UI, and the PSE Burst will begin when that gauge reaches a 5 out of 5 level. Any enemy in the combat sector you are fighting in has a chance to increase or decrease this PSE gauge level. The one thing about the PSE Burst system is that it requires the completion of a trial task to acquire the 5th level of the PSE gauge. And this 5th level is not always guaranteed upon a trial completion, but the fact still stands, you have to complete a trial task to even have a chance at a PSE Burst. And there is never more than one of these trial tasks on the field at any given time. And if there is none on the field at that time, that requires you clearing other monster groups in order for that trial to spawn. Trial tasks can take multiple minutes to appear, and this is typically one of the biggest downfalls to combat sectors. It is fighting enemies and waiting for that trial to show up so you can finally get to your PSE Burst. So there is a few things that you're going to want to do to be able to optimize this type of farm. First things first, you're going to want to get into a group of 6 to 8 players, and preferably all of you should be tech-based classes. Reason being, you got Zond. Zond is amazing. It automatically targets things, It's really fast to cast and attack things. And secondly, if you're a tech-based class, you have access to grants, which is a really good single targeting skill right now, especially with everything being weak to light. It's really important to have a single target skill for this type of farming system, since you don't want to be attacking anything that isn't the trial enemies. This could accidentally drop the PSE gauge from 4 to 3 and can really slow down how many PSE bursts you get. Another advantage of going force main class or subclass is you have access to 2 really good skills. The first one is eradication PP gain. Basically, whenever you defeat an enemy, you will get a portion of your max photon power back. So you're basically going to have infinite photon power. And secondly, if you ever do run out of photon power, you have access to PP conversion, which you activate this, and for 30 seconds you have incredible natural PP recovery. If you do not have a good technique build, you could go Ranger, but please go Force subclass so you have access to these additional photon power recovery abilities. I would also highly suggest getting into a keyworded room so nobody can interrupt your farm. And last but not least, just understand that this is going to require a lot of communication between every single player in the room, as well as a bunch of focus, especially around the PSE gauge. When you hit 4 out of 5 PSE gauge, you are going to have to stop attacking immediately just so you don't accidentally drop that PSE gauge. And lastly, you're going to need this map right here. And you're probably noticing that this map looks very similar to another map that we've had for West Retem in the deafness video that I posted about a week ago. If you haven't seen that, I highly suggest going and looking at that one too. It's another really great way to make money. But back to Nois's map here. You can see that they have sectioned off Retem Alnothe into 7 different areas. And so what the goal is to put a single person into each of these spots and to actively clear any monsters that are spawning. What this is going to do is that it is going to raise that PSE gauge very quickly, since there is a ton of monsters dying. And the goal of the room is to get that PSE gauge to 4 out of 5 and immediately turn all of your attention to the trial task that is on the map. As you can see here in this example, our PSE gauge just switched to 4 out of 5, and we immediately typed in our chat T for that trial task so everybody can stop farming, because if you do keep farming, you have the chance to drop it back down to 3, and then you're playing the RNG game of trying to get it back up to 4. So once we saw that bar get to 4 out of 5, we immediately typed T just to help anybody else notice that it is at 4 out of 5, no more fighting regular monsters. And I'm communicating another thing. We're going to be using single target skills here. We don't want to accidentally hit any nearby monsters. They are not a part of that task. So as we're fighting in this PSE burst, there's a couple things I want to highlight. This right here. We're only about halfway done with the PSE burst, but we already have somebody mentioning who is going to stay for the PSE Climax boss. Now, why this is important is because PSE bursts have a max limit of monster spawn, and we are going to max out on that spawn since they're so low level. We are basically 1 to 2 shotting these monsters, and we have 7 different Zons casting at the same time. We are clearing these monsters very quickly. So instead of just waiting for the PSE Climax, what we're going to do is leave one person there to clear the boss, and every other person is going to spread out across Retem Alnothe and go clear enemies. In Nois's map here, I kind of put a red dot around where this specific PSE burst was. Harry is going to stay on the boss since the PSE burst was in his area. So how combat sectors work is that as a PSE burst or climax is active, enemy groups do not respawn. Our goal is to create a near empty room that will be instantaneously repopulated when the PSE Climax boss is defeated. Because there is so many monster groups that have to be repopulated right away, it's almost guaranteed that one of those monster groups will be a trial task enemy group. So we're going to finish this example out. We notice that the monster stopped spawning, so we're all spreading across this room, clearing out everything that we possibly can before the PSE Climax boss is defeated. And you're going to see here, the PSE Climax boss is defeated, and boom, right on our screen, right there is a trial already active and ready to be defeated. But we're not going to defeat it yet, because if you remember, you can only get a PSE burst when you defeat the trial. So we are going to continue spreading across the map in our own little locations. We are going to push that bar right up to 4 out of 5, and then we're going to go right to the T. And as you see here, we got 4 out of 5 in almost 30 in like what 30 seconds, and we're going right to that trial that instantly spawned, and we're going to trigger a PSE burst no less than 1 minute after the other one ended. And that is what is possible if you take this strategy serious. If you get everybody to spread across the map, clear these monsters out, you're giving yourself a much higher chance that one of those repopulated enemy groups is going to be the task enemy group, and you don't have to worry about killing monsters and waiting for it to spawn, because it will almost always be spawned right after the previous PSE is concluded. And there's another really interesting strategy that I was shown today by Nois as well, and it has to deal with storms. So we know that when there is a storm going on, that the PSE burst gauge is pushed up to 4 out of 5 instantly. We're going to clear all of these monsters with about a half of that PSE burst gauge remaining. So instead of sitting around, instead of waiting for the PSE climax boss, what we are going to do is we're going to go into our communications tab, and we can actually change the keyword that I suggested you put on your room. You can change the keyword from anywhere in the combat zone, and it's instantly gonna teleport the entire group. So as long as you're the party leader and you change the password, it's gonna warp everybody in your party into this room. So at most, you would only have to have 2 people doing this, and as long as you both are on the same page with this room matchmaking keyword, you guys can go from one room. Once those monsters stop spawning in that PSE burst, switch into the next room, immediately start killing to try to spawn a trial task enemy group, and you can get another PSE burst going right away, since the storm is immediately throwing that room at 4 out of 5 bars. And this is where you're going to make a heck ton of money, because you are triggering PSE bursts almost every single minute, and you're going on for the entire duration of the storm. So that's about it. I want you guys to get some friends together and go try this farm. It completely blew my socks off my feet when we saw this in action. I didn't think it was going to work this well at all, but I had almost 30 minutes where we were getting PSE bursts for every like 1 to 2 minutes we were getting bursts, and had a ton of raw money. So if you're a free-to-play player, this is probably your best bet to get geared up, your best bet to afford fashion, because you don't have to worry about the player shop at all. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like and a subscribe. I try to provide guides for any type of content on this channel, so if you enjoyed this one, there's surely more to come. If you want to be a part of our community, there's a Discord link down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and follow that Twitch channel. I live stream New Genesis content 5 days a week, and I would love to see you there while I'm playing. As always, guys, thank you so much for the continued support, and I will see you all real soon.